Well, hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hotspot. We are so excited to be here again today with some more amazing students, and it's going to just be a great day, a great conversation. We have a couple of new faces joining us today. We have Carolyn. Now, it's not Caroline. Okay, I've accidentally called her Caroline a bunch of times. It's Carolyn. It's YN. Like, I spell my name Justin with a YN. You'd think I'd get it, but anyways, it's awesome to have you here, Carolyn. And we do have Cam Jansen with us. I don't know why. For some reason, I always have to say your first and last name. It just feels right to say Cam Jansen. I never call you Cam or Cameron. It's just, anyways, yeah. Returning with us, again, we have Portia. And we have Nathan also with us.
I'm back,
rocking his LA hat. I love that hat. You like it?
Yeah. World Series champions.
Come on. Yeah, you can keep it. That's cool. You keep it. Anyways. And I know everybody's got this burning question on their minds. Justin, did you get a haircut? Yes, I finally got a haircut. So yeah, anyways, I'm feeling like a real person again. We were in lockdown here in Ontario, right? So everything was closed except for like grocery stores, essential businesses. And so it was like no haircut for 2 months. And I just feel, I know nobody actually cares, but oh goodness, it just feels so good to actually feel like a normal person again. Anyways, Hotspot, it's a real conversation with real students about real life. And so we're excited to kind of jump into this topic and to just have a good time discussing now. So you guys are in your next quadmester attending high school in person again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How's that going?
So it was really exciting to go back because, being gone for a month, it sucked. And it kind of like hit me out of nowhere. Like I wasn't expecting to go back now. And all of a sudden, like a few weeks ago, I got the email and it was really exciting. Because, I miss my friends. I miss some of the teachers even.
Yeah. Wow.
So, great feedback.
We have this on the record that Nathan just said he missed some of his teachers.
Keyword some.
So, all right. If you're ever a teacher watching this, you can guess whether you're the ones that he missed or not. You can figure it out. No. Is that going okay for you guys as well? Everybody else? Is it nice being back?
Yeah, it is.
That's good. I get it. Like you feel cooped up at home, right? Like you just going a little crazy, maybe wanting to kill your siblings a little bit. I can imagine. Yeah. I've been at home with my son, Wesley, so I completely understand. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Anyways, today we wanted to have a conversation about the idea of acceptance and belonging, because this is something that's, I think it's prevalent and real in not just the lives of teenagers and students, but every single person. Something that we're all dealing with, something that we're all struggling with, because we have this innate need within us to belong, to feel like we are accepted. And it's especially tough though when you're in your teen years, because there's the years where you're being formed into who you're going to be later in life, into adulthood. You're changing, you're growing, your brains are changing so much. It's just a crazy time. And so it's something that is just so tied to those teen years, because it's just, you're desperate for that belonging, right? And that acceptance. And so I think it's a really important conversation, and it's something that's really great to talk about. So, I have a question for you guys. Who's the person that you want to impress the most? Like, think about, is it a friend? Is it a parent? Like there's some of us who are like, I got to get good grades for my parent. Like, who is that person that you really want to impress?
For me, it's my youth pastor, Justin. I look up to him a lot, and I'm always thinking like, what's he going to think about this? What's he going to think about that? I care about his opinion a lot. And yeah, I go with Justin. Are you
actually being serious, or are you just making a joke?
No, it's my other youth pastor, Justin.
Oh, your other, okay. That's, that's awesome. No, it's very true. And he's hard to impress, I've heard. So you got to try really hard. Yeah. Yeah. What about somebody else? Who are you really always trying to impress?
I mean, I don't know if this counts, but I feel like I try to impress myself the most, because I set like such high standards for myself that like, if I don't meet it, then I like just get disappointed.
No, that counts. That's a good answer. I actually really like that answer. That is very relatable. I'm always trying to impress myself. Just, what, did you see what I did there? Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. That's a thinker. Wow. Somebody else. Who are you trying to impress?
I wouldn't say like specific person, but like generally just like your friends around you. You want to just like have overall be, I guess, impressive to people.
Of course. I mean, who wants to be like, I want to be unimpressive? Like, I don't want to stand out, right? Nobody really thinks that. Yeah.
I think that I try to impress the people who I find are very respectable, or people I look up to, because you're not really going to seek that approval from anyone who you don't think is going to I'm not sure how to word that, but yeah, there's something about someone you respect being like, good job. That's, really can't be beat.
For sure. Yeah, for me, it was growing up, it was my dad was one of the big ones for sure. And I was pretty close to my youth pastor too. That was definitely another person. But my dad he's awesome. He's one of my heroes. And so that's always somebody that I always wanted to be able to impress. And, I love all your answers. It's all good. It's all real, but it can be really hard and it can be really tiring and exhausting, but it can also be super rewarding, like you said, Carolyn. And I love that you're trying to be nice and be like, oh, I don't want to impress people that I think suck, but you were saying it in a nice way, and I'll just put the words to it. But so what do you guys think though? Why do you guys think that we care so much about what people think? Like, what is the deal with that?
Honestly, I've been trying to figure that out myself, and like, I just haven't came to conclusion. Like, it's just something in our DNA that, like, no matter what we do, we are always trying to impress somebody. Like, even if it's like someone walking by on the street and you're like throwing a piece of garbage in the garbage can, you're always like making sure people are watching, right? So I don't know what it is, but it's always there in my head.
I don't know if I have the answer either, but it's true. Does anybody have any other thoughts? Like, any reason why? Like, why do we just want to do this so bad?
I feel like logically it comes back to survival.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. It's going to happen. I think that's totally true. And that's just a big component of it.
I feel like a big thing is like society sets like such high standards for people, because obviously like everyone is good at something that someone else is not. So I feel like everyone just strives to be like the perfect person in everyone's eyes. So I feel like that plays a big part in it.
I think that's true. And I think what happens is everybody's good at something, but there's certain skills that are more highly valued, right? So it's really easy to maybe cling to sports or music or something that's very public, right? And so there's certain people that they strive in different ways, and then other people can kind of feel like maybe they don't belong or not accepted because it's not something that they're good at, which is public or as popular, right? And I think that's a big struggle for. No, that's a great point there, Portia. You got any ideas, Cam? Like, why are we just wanting acceptance and all this so much?
A thing of it could be like your relationships. Like, you want to be like with the people around you, you want them to like not think you're like a loser and like look down on you. Like, you want to be able to maintain those relationships and be good. So you want to like impress people and make sure that they like you and stuff.
It's true. You just don't want people to think you're a loser. As you said that, and I was like, yeah, that's so relatable. I absolutely resonate with that. And I don't understand why, especially with strangers. Like, that's the thing that, I'll buy a pair of shoes just to be like, people are going to think these are sick. I'm like, who cares? I don't understand. I'll wear them out on a walk. And
these people that you're never going to see again in your life, and you're just always trying to impress them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing, but we have that desire, right? And whatever, it might not be shoes, but whatever it might be, it could be intellect, it could be a skill. Like, there's just, it's something that we just have so deep down in us. So have any of you ever been in a time in your life or a season that you just felt like you didn't belong, and that was like finding acceptance was a struggle?
One thing that comes to mind is in grade 6, I moved schools, and obviously, like, if you've ever moved schools, it's like, it's a big thing, like completely new people, just trying to like kind of fit in. And it took a while because like, in grades, like when I was younger, I was a really quiet kid, and like, it was tough to make new friends. But, I just gave it some more time. Like, the first year I hated it. I didn't like being there. I wanted to move back, but, gave it some time and eventually worked out. You make some friends, you become more comfortable, and you feel accepted, obviously. Yeah. And that's the one thing that comes to mind surrounding that topic.
That's a tough season for sure. Absolutely relatable. I think one thing that anybody listening, any of you guys can agree is one thing that we can do better is maybe have an eye out for certain people like that, and kind of maybe try to be there for them more, because you can think of how tough that was, right? I moved schools too, but I think it was into grade 2. So I was pretty young, but it's not that hard to make friends when you're 7 and you're just like, oh, you like trucks? I like the color red. And then you're best friends. But that's a great example. It's true.
Yeah. And I guess it was a bit easier in like grade 6, like, if I move schools now in like grade 11, that would be really hard, because you're like going into your graduating year, everybody's already so close to each other,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like thrown in there. So yeah, obviously like that was
For
a better
sure.
situation than what some people might be going through now.
For sure.
Yeah. I feel like for me, it was definitely grade 9 because like going into high school, I was supposed to go to a different high school in my district, but I went to WCI instead. So I didn't really know like anybody there. So it was like really hard to like find like my group of people and then just try and fit in and be like cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's 100%. It's so difficult. And when you go to a high school that's out of your district, you're not necessarily going to be with all the people you were in grade 8 with.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's all new friends. That's got to be tough for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly to Nathan, I think that middle school is like a difficult time and a difficult season to go through just for anyone. And I think that like it's kind of where everyone's developing like their own identities, and like it gets really like, and there's hormones and like everything is very like chaotic at all times. Like I really respect like grade 7 teachers, like the fact that people put themselves willingly in that situation where they're like, I'm going to be responsible for 24 12-year-olds or whatever. Like that is a special type of human being, and you deserve a lot of credit if you're doing that. But I think that for me, you know, when I felt the most rejected or the most out of place was definitely middle school, because I think that, you know, with all of those raging emotions and like this, like it feels so strongly in the moment, and you're like 12 and you don't know how to handle it necessarily yet. And I think that kind of you know, grade 8 was definitely notoriously incredibly difficult for me. Just I went through a lot of like there was manipulation like on so many levels from so many people, and I felt like everyone was kind of like caving in on me by the end of it. And I was just so happy to go into grade 9 and get out of that. But I think that was definitely a time in which I did not feel accepted, and I don't think anyone really did. And I think that everyone was kind of taking out their own angst on each other, and I think that was kind of difficult.
For sure. That is a great point. It is such a crazy time. I remember when I was in grade 7 and 8. So you guys, I'm going to sound old. All right. I'll just throw it out there. So there was a different kind of music. I've talked about this in a message before that was way more popular than it is now. And it was like emo punk music. And so that's the time when I started trying to fit in with certain groups of people like this music. And I tried putting on like guy liner, I like to call it. And it was just this crazy, like hormone changing time where I think of my grade 7 teacher being cool and like not making fun of me for wearing guy liner and just trying to, you know, fit in and be accepted. And I totally agree. It was a crazy time, and, you know, it ended up all good and it worked out, but it was a rough couple of years, and I can totally relate to that.
I'm very happy that trend happened when you were in middle school, because if that's what I had to do to be cool, I would not be happy.
I was only cool with certain people. There was a lot of people who didn't like it, but you know, the group that I was in, you know, that was what we were in.
I gotta imagine your parents didn't like it too much either.
No, they didn't get it, you know. So
your parents like pastors too.
Yeah, my dad is, but my dad was always the rocker guy though too. So in the 90s, he had long hair and got his ears pierced, which was a big deal then. And he traveled, and so he kind of understood it from that perspective a little bit. But yeah, you know, it's a crazy time, grade 7 and 8. So if you're in grade 7 and 8 and watching this, you'll get through it. You got this. It's just a couple more years, right? Yeah.
And if you're in grade 7 and 8 watching this, don't put on eyeliner.
Don't. I don't recommend it. I mean,
you're gonna think that things are great ideas, and in your mind they're great ideas, and they're really not great ideas.
It's not worth the time even. Like, why spend? I don't even understand why. And it didn't look good, anyways. The mind.
Actually, I've seen the picture and it did look pretty good.
Did it? You think?
The picture up. We definitely need to put the picture up. I'm requesting right now. We need the picture right now.
I'll add the picture. I'll add it post-production. So you're going to see the picture right about now. There's the picture. Isn't that the magic of? Yeah, it's like you guys are seeing it right now, and you can.
So handsome.
Thank you. You guys are too kind. Yeah, that was just looking for acceptance and belonging. So that very apropos to this conversation. Oh no, it's good. It's a good conversation. So, you know, in the same line of that conversation, has there ever been a time where you can remember, look back to somebody who helped you feel like you belong, or you were able to help somebody else feel like they belong or they were accepted? Either or. Has there ever been a time that you can remember what that situation was, what that story was?
I mean, I can't think of like an exact example, but like a large variety. I feel like my friends and I just go off of each other. it's like we're like, oh, like I'm not pretty enough, or I don't feel like I don't have that summer body or anything like that. So I feel like we just kind of like build each other up and be like, you don't have to be perfect to fit in.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. We all need that. Friends who can even just say, shut up, that's not true, just stop it. They'll hear you out, but that's good.
Yeah, there was a few times I can think of just going to like a gathering, like going to like a new church for like a youth group, like where you used to work, Justin, Glad Tidings. Like I had friends there, and I would go there occasionally for like junior high and stuff. And like, people would like introduce themselves to me, and it always made me feel really good about myself because like, you feel welcome in a new spot where like you might know one or two people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always appreciated that. And I've always tried to like you said, like keep an eye out for people like that. That might be our youth group.
Yeah.
That might be like by themselves. They're new, because it does make you feel really good about yourself.
It makes a big difference for sure. Yeah. We all need that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like older, like leaders and stuff that you think are like cool and stuff. And they come up to you and they're like, hey man, how's it going? Like that definitely helps.
Shout out Chris Cerna. No? Oh yeah. Absolutely. That makes a huge difference. Absolutely. A big part of this conversation is you can think back to those times where somebody did it for you or you did it for somebody. And I think the big takeaway in this conversation, what I've heard from all of you guys is, because those have been impactful moments, is that we can be that for other people as well. And if everybody listening to this and everybody a part of this conversation has that mindset, I think that could make a huge change in our world, because there are so many people who are just desperately hurting for acceptance and hurting for belonging, and they just don't feel like they have somewhere that they belong. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people turn to a lot of things that aren't great for them, or things that can be really, really negative, is because they're just looking for and craving the belonging and the acceptance. And so if you see, even times people turn to things like drugs or whatever that might be, and it actually brings their life down to a dark place, I think it's just because they're desperately looking to either numb or find acceptance and belonging, right? And so if we can do whatever we can to provide that for other people, I think that we can make a really big difference in people's lives. Like I think that can, right? Like that's, yeah. Have you ever thought of or can remember a situation where you didn't feel like you did belong, and so you changed something about yourself so that you could find acceptance? And we already talked about me and the guy liner, so that's a great example of that. But have any of you ever experienced that, or maybe had a friend who had something go through that, where they changed something about themselves, or said, I'm interested in this, or pretended to be, or whatever that was, just to find that acceptance?
I wouldn't say like anything to the extent of like you wearing eyeliner or anything. But just like little things, like people, like fidget spinners became popular, so you want a fidget spinner, right? Just to like spin your fidget with your friends.
Spin your fidget.
Before that, there was like Rubik's cubes. Rubik's cubes were cool in my school, so everybody had a Rubik's cube.
Yeah,
so kind of like fads, I guess. But yeah.
So are you saying you think that the biggest reason that fads like that take over is because people feel like they have to get into what everybody else is to feel like they belong?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
It's not like fidget spinners weren't some revolutionary thing that helped your anxiety or ADHD or whatever. Like it was just a little like spinning thing that everybody had.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like the main idea with trends too. Like you see someone wearing something, you be like, oh, that's cool to wear that, so I have to wear that. Right.
Yeah, and I can relate to that too. I had a couple fidget spinners just as a youth pastor, being like, look at this, and like do a little trick and you flip. It's true. That's a true point, that we get into these things not because we actually like it or need it. It's because we want to fit in. Deep. Yeah. Anybody else? Has there been a situation or a time where you can think of something that you changed about yourself, just trying to belong, fit in, like be accepted?
Like it kind of goes off what Nathan said, but like just fitting into like trends and stuff. Like especially I feel like clothes is a big thing that I would like change to like have the same clothes as everyone to make myself feel cooler. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. A big thing that I've heard lately is that, sorry, I interrupted you, Carolyn, you can go right next. Is that people who do like the crying, laughing emoji are getting like, well, that's canceled now. It's not cool anymore. Now you got to do the skull because you're dead laughing.
You can't do the crying, laughing emoji. It's kind of like jokes now. Like you use it to like make fun of the people that use it.
Gotcha. So if you want to be accepted, if you want to belong, you got to use the skull emoji for funny. That's good to
or
know.
just like ha 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 ha, like typing it out. Or,
Just ha 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 ha. Okay.
LOL is back.
This is good. This is what I need to know.
Yeah. This is what this has turned into. This isn't about acceptance. This is about what emojis you need to use when you're texting.
What
This has
emoji?
become a tutorial.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me. Okay. So in this situation, what do you know?
I've definitely fallen into the trap of, and I think that it comes in different ways, but I think I've definitely changed my opinions, or at least not went into or answered questions in the way that I usually would, because I didn't want to deal with the scrutiny that would come with, whether it be about like mental health issues, or whether it be about like, even it can be so little thing, like it can be like the most minuscule things, like what do you think about that one movie, and you know that these people are probably more inclined to like that one kind of movie, so you just don't say anything, or you find a way around it. Or like I found it like in middle school, going back to that amazing time in my life, I often found that I was like very ashamed of being like a churchgoer, I found. And that's not something that I look back on and I think, oh, I'm so glad that I like didn't tell them that I went to church, or like I kind of mocked it whenever it was brought up. Just so that, because they were mocking it, so I didn't want to be like, no, it's actually like really cool, guys. You guys would like it. And I think that, it's rather difficult to be in those situations, especially when you're younger. But also I think that it goes until like basically death, where you think that you kind of have to put yourself into a little box and limit yourself to these opinions that you can have around certain people, whether it be just for safety or just because you want to fit in. I think that kind of goes into the conversation we were going towards.
Absolutely. No, I think that you've really hit the nail on the head there, because it's trends and clothes are one thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but when it comes to, I want to be careful of the opinions that I share because I want to be liked, like that's heavy. That's a real thing that I think all of us can agree that we face, and we just know, like, I just don't want to say this around them because I don't want to get made fun of. I want to be accepted, or changing the opinions or thoughts that we have, even just on a movie, just so that our friends would accept us. And it goes crazy when it comes to politics or anything heavier like that. But that's a really good point. I totally agree that that's a real struggle for a lot of people. And I don't like conflict. Like I'm not afraid of it, but it's not something I love. So I can totally relate to you, Carolyn, being like, I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm not going to bring this up or talk about this or bite on that or pretend I don't know about whatever it might be, this opinion. That's true. That's really heavy. So obviously, one thing, we're all people who follow Jesus, and we're all Christians, and so we all have this relationship with Jesus where in our heads and our minds we know that we're always accepted and that we're always loved. But sometimes that is like difficult to remember. Like, why do you guys think it's so tough when you're just in your day to day to be like, you know what? I may not be perfect, but I'm accepted and I belong with God. Like, what's the difficulty in that? Because it's, you know what I mean? It's so easy to forget about that.
Oh yeah, like I forget all the time. Like sometimes I'll be like really caught up in like picking out an outfit or something like in the morning, and I need to catch myself because like it doesn't really matter that much. But I think it happens a lot because the devil uses that point of attack on you, just like second guessing stuff, like trying to fit in. Because at the end of the day, you don't need to fit in. Like you're perfect in God's eyes. Like you're accepted through him, but like still we're trying to find acceptance in this world through worldly things, and we don't need that. So I think the devil does try to attack you with that sort of stuff. I think that might be a reason why it's so hard to get it out of our head.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, and I feel like another kind of different take on that is like you see people all the time, like you're trying to impress people because they're what's right in front of you, whereas God's like invisible, so you don't you're not looking like face to face with God and being like, oh yeah, what you think matters more about what people think, because you're with people all the time.
Totally true.
I think it totally goes back to that instant gratification. I know that you've kind of touched on that, Justin, going into like why people even seek out acceptance to begin with. And I think that it's so easy to get that through people, when in reality, their opinions truly don't matter. Like you're not going to get on the day of judgment and you're not going to have like your biggest fans and like your enemies. And it's not going to be like everyone's having like a whole debate and there's a jury and like, no, it's just going to be you and God. And I think that oftentimes like that can seem like so far away, or like you're not even thinking about that. You're just looking for that instant, like, please just like me so that I can like myself and but your identity. I think that it's very difficult, especially in Christianity, to remember that your identity doesn't belong to other people. At least it has been for me. And I think that it's like, so it's such a slippery slope, because you can't please everyone, which is something that people say like a lot, but it takes so long to actually accept that for yourself. And I think that, especially in the current age that we're in, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but
no, I'm just agreeing with you.
As you should. I have great opinions. My opinions are always top tier, and you should always agree with them. I think that especially like in this digital age, which I feel like it's also very like overused, so I'm going to say it through my teeth. Through this digital age and social media, I feel as though people are really struggling with their self-image, because it's so easy to like there are group chats that you can make, and you can talk about like one specific person, and that person doesn't even need to find out. You like, there's so many different, like, I've had people move conversations from Instagram to Snapchat so that like if they're screenshotting it or not. Wow. Like, what an interesting world that we live in now.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, especially if you're like an adult watching this and like you think that teenage perspectives are super interesting, as you should, because my opinions are always great, as we previously went over. But if you're an adult, like, you don't realize necessarily how large like this world is for these teenagers who can like they can really like manipulate like what you're talking about, and like it's all just so dramatic, and it can all be done through a screen, which is something that's oversaid a lot. But I think that it's important to acknowledge, especially because we're all teenagers here, and I feel like we can all kind of elaborate on that a little bit, or like see how that goes out in like all of our lives necessarily. Because I've definitely fallen victim to being in group chats where I'm like, like this person isn't in this group chat, and we're like definitely talking about them.
Yeah. That's a really helpful perspective, because, there was a social media when I was a teenager, but we didn't have cell phones like you guys, and Facebook was new, and I'm sounding so old. But that's a reality that is newer in the world. I had MySpace. Yeah. And, I was Tom's friend. And anyways, that's a great perspective. That is so helpful to consider and to kind of be aware of. It makes the whole acceptance, belonging, it's a more interconnected web that's just complicated, right? And there's so many points of connection, and there's so much breeding for possible toxicity, right? So that's tough. Absolutely. Have any of you guys experienced some struggles with that through online and social?
I feel like every time you get on social media, there's always a bit of that. Like, you can't avoid it. It might be like smaller than some days and like bigger other days. But I can't think of like a specific time. But I know it's always there, right?
Right. Just kind of something you have to accept.
Yeah, you're kind of like signing up for it when you like download Instagram or Snapchat or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Or even if you're not on it, it could be happening behind the scenes and you're just not involved, right? So
yeah.
I think the big takeaway that I take from what you said, Carolyn, is as teenagers, this is something that we can, well, not we, because I'm not a teenager, something that you can be aware of to point out and be like, you know what? I don't think this is right. We shouldn't be doing this, right? Because if it was you who was the subject or the victim or whatever to what was going on and stuff like that, when it comes to acceptance, belonging, whatever it might be, that would hurt. And what that feels like. And so that we can now be the friends and be the people who say, I'm not going to take part of this because this isn't the right thing. I think that we should stop. I think that we should apologize. I think whatever that might be, right? And I think that's something that, I think you're right, that's probably happening all the time. And people who are hearing this might be like, yep. But that's something that we can maybe take this just as like our chance to say, that is wrong. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to stop that.
And that can be a really hard thing to do. It's so easy to just go with the crowd, like just kind of like take a back seat, just sit there and listen.
For sure.
But like stepping up and saying that, it might also be like an unpopular opinion. Like nobody else might want to do that. And like, you have to make that decision for yourself that you don't want to be the kind of person that's associated with this type of stuff.
Well, and you're risking your own belonging and acceptance by doing that, because the people in it could say, we don't want to accept you anymore, right? But it is the right thing to do.
Without you, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's the right thing to do. But you know what, you guys, this has been a really great conversation. I genuinely appreciate your perspectives. I think we nailed down some really helpful ideas and perspectives when it comes to where teens are at today with acceptance and belonging. And I want everybody to know, if you're listening to this, you do belong to God. He loves you. He accepts you. He sent his son for you. So if you're struggling, just feeling like you don't belong anywhere, you're not accepted anywhere, I want you to know, I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that God loves you and he accepts you and he's got great things for you. So I want to say thank you to all of you guys for joining us today, joining in on this conversation. We absolutely love being able to sit down and have these conversations. We have Hotspot coming out every single Friday around 3:00 in the afternoon. And I can't wait for more to continue to come out, to have some of you back eventually. This has been a great conversation. So thank you guys so much. We hope that this has been helpful for you, any listeners, and that this has been something that has just given you a little insight into the perspective of teenagers today. Hope you guys have a fantastic one. See ya.